End. Snow Cone Mini One Shot. I don't understand why this was picked. I'm not complaining, just shocked that it did. Izuku hummed to himself as he laid out on his green sofa quietly reading a comic to himself with a cup of tea on the table in front of Hai as he enjoyed his time to himself. That ended after his phone began to ring and with a sigh he answered. He loves being a hero but it gets really stressful and tiring a lot of times. Hello. He spoke into his phone. Deku, we need your help. There is a gang of villains at the bank downtown, and we need backup. Quote. A voice on the other end begged for help. Isn't there other heroes? Izuku asked him. There's a lot of crime today, so they're spread all out and none are able to come. Please. The person kept begging. Alright, send me the location and I'll be right over. He hung up and picked up his cup of tea. He dumped it out in the sink as he went to get his hero suit on. Several minutes later he arrived at the scene outside a bank where it appeared to be a standoff with the cops and the police. He walked to the closest cop car where an officer was crouched down in cover. What's the situation? Izuku asked of him as he crouched beside him. A gang of about 4 villains, possibly more, are inside currently. Their quirks are all unknown but they all have weapons like guns and hand grenades. We are not sure if they have shot any hostages and not entirely sure if there is possibly any deaths, the cop explained to Izuku. I see. Have they made any kind of demands or statements? Izuku asked the cop as he looked at the bank. The only thing they have asked for is a car and to be allowed to leave. Other than that in a few shots nothing. And that's all. Before he could finish Izuku stood up as he surveyed the bank thinking over in his head the best plan of action. He saw a window near the top, and he had his plan. Meanwhile inside the bank, damn it more cops are showing up and who knows how long it will be until some heroes show up. I say we blow one of their fucking heads off to show we are serious about this. The goon pointed his gun at one of their hostages ready to fire. His gun was suddenly taken away from another before he could pull the trigger. We don't kill and you know that. She will not allow it. The goon reminded him before handing it right back to him. TCH, he cursed quietly as he walked a bit away. Where are you? We need the rest of the money now for fuck's sake. The goon spoke into his radio. I'm going as fast as I can. Just give me some more time, I will be done soon. The person could be heard on the other side. Izuku took a look from above as he was in the window. I don't know what their quirks are. It's possible they don't have any at all since they're using guns, or maybe that's just for show. Alright, I can take one out quickly, but then they will know what's going on. Gotta do this fast, he thought to himself as he looked over at the goons. He sprung into action. He jumped on top of one villain, knocking him out. Shit, it's Deku. Open fire, we have permission to kill him. The head goon ordered. Story continues below. The two raised their guns at Izuku. He watched them pull the trigger and he used one for all to quickly duck and dodge their bullets, which in turn hit each other, sending them to ground, hurt but not head. The head goon took off his gloves and held them up in fists. I have no problem with a hand-to-hand fight. Izuku turned off his quirk and raised his fists up as well. Hey, I didn't say anything about using hand-to-hand. The head goon cracked a smile and suddenly his hands were on fire. He aimed one at Izuku and shot a fireball at Izuku, which he just barely managed to duck, and the goon sent another one which he had to duck again. Ha ha ha, I can go a donk. The sound of a metal pipe hit the back of his head rang throughout all the bank. He fell down to the ground unconscious, and standing behind him was someone Izuku was not happy to see. It was Ochako Uraraka. Hi Deku. Fancy seeing you here, huh? She asked as she threw down her metal pipe and stepped over the goon's unconscious body. Uraraka, I thought I told you to stop being a villain last time we meet. Izuku sounded really unhappy, and he was. And I told you I would think about it and I did. And I realized I couldn't. I can't survive without Cash Deku and being a villain can be quite rewarding, ya know. She slowly walked towards him. Uraraka, just because you don't have a quirk means you have to resort to this. I could have helped you. We could have been happy together. He looked down at the floor as he finished his sentence. Quote dot 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 dot. Well, it's too late to go back now. I haven't exactly done murder, but all the theft and public damage and such would still get me a 5-year sentence at least. Anyway, see ya around, Deku. She placed her hand into a small satchel on her belt which Izuku took notice of. She tried to walk away but Izuku immediately jumped in front of her, preventing her from leaving. Sigh. Come on, Deku. We both know what will happen. We fight a bit, then your feelings come up and you can't turn me in. Can we just skip to the end, please? She asked as she got closer to him. Quote dot dot dot. Uraraka, just don't. He tired to resist but she was pulling him in. You know you love me, Deku. And you know I love you too. If you let me go we can have our usual at our place. What do you say? She ran 2 fingers up his chest giving him a flirting look. Quote dot dot dot. Just kiss me. He closed his eyes and leaned in towards her. That's much better. She closed her eyes and leaned in as well. Izuku took his fist and rammed it right into the side of her face, sending her flying into the wall, causing her a lot of pain in the process. He walked over to her and slapped a pair of handcuffs on one of her hands. He also reached into her satchel and pulled out a very rare and very valuable diamond. Deku, you won't really turn me in, will you? She begged him to let her go by just looking into his eyes. I'm sorry, but I warned you. I gave you too many chances and you didn't take them. I'm a hero and I have to do what's right. He attached her handcuffs to a nearby pole. Deku, please. Come on, that's not funny. She tried to take the handcuffs off to no avail. I'm sorry. He started to walk away from her as he began to cry. Ochako sat down and leaned up against the wall as her thoughts clouded her mind. I guess I deserve this. She watched as her love disappeared outside of the bank and the cops came to take her away. Her court date was set for October 23rd. She sat in her cell wearing a all-orange prison uniform, holding onto a handcrafted Izuku doll that she made from a few materials lying around. She didn't know how to feel. She loved Izuku a lot, she really did, and if things had turned out different maybe she could have been with him. But she was a villain. And she did a lot of bad things. But what she felt the most guilty about was how she had used him to get away with several crimes. And she felt like she deserved to get a life sentence, at the very least. As she was thinking about her regrets, the cell door opened up. You got a visitor, the cop said. Ochako got up from his knee and followed her after getting out into handcuffs, leaving the Izuku doll behind on her bed. She was completely shocked to find the one that was visiting her was none other than the one she had mind focused on since she arrived at prison. Izuku. Hey Uraraka, he greeted her at the table. Why are you here? She asked as she sat down in her chair across from him. I will keep it simple. I spoke to the judge and we came up with something kinda like a plea deal. You will be let go, but the condition is that you will be released into my care. You will be under house arrest for exactly 1 year, and about 3 months of community service once that house arrest is over. And of course the house you will be staying in is my own, plus you will be under my care for an undecided period of time. What do you say? He explained the deal to her and he waited for a response. Ochako blinked twice before she spoke. Huh, why would the court agree to that? Ochako asked with a confused. Because I offered it to them and I got them to agree. Being a number one hero has its perks, ya know, he explained. Ochako leaned back in her chair, not changing her expression, which was already a sadness face. Don't you hate me, Deku? She asked, putting her handcuffed hands on the table. No, of course I do, but I used you. More than once. This conversation so far only made her heart sink even more. Yeah, I know. But I forgive you for it. He looked into her eyes. But I don't deserve your forgiveness. I'm a villain as well. Ochako couldn't handle looking him in the eye anymore, so she turned away from his view. It's also my fault as well. I should haven't let you go since the first time. And you only were a villain because you felt like you didn't have much options available to you. But now you do, so will you take that chance? He stood up from his chair. Quote. You know, the moment they let me go I could easily run away. She turned back to face him. I trust you that you won't. Besides, why would you want to run away from me? He asked as he placed a hand on her cheek. Good point. I guess I will accept the conditions then. Us being together at your place would be much better than at some random alleyway anyhow. She accepted the terms that were laid out. Alrighty. It will take a few days to get everything set, so you will still have to stay here till then. He picked up his bag and got set to leave. I thought I was going to be in here for a few years, so a few days is nothing. See ya then. She got up from her seat and the guard came back to take her away. As they were walking back to the cells, she took a look behind her to see Izuku leave. She broke from the guard and ran to him and pushed herself gently to him. Thanks, Deku. She had a tear drop from her face. Of course, he smiled and gave her a pat on the head before the cop went back for her and took her to her cell. I'm going to be taking about a month break from these one-shots cause I want to put some focus in my other stories.